And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners meeting for September 19th, 2022. And we will ask Commissioner Jeanette Council to do our invocation and our pledge. Everyone would rise.
Stand with me, please. Heavenly Father, we gather together tonight to do the business of our county. I'm sorry. Sorry, Lord. Can you hear me? You can hear me even when I don't. Okay. We ask that you keep our minds open and hearts always open to make the best decisions that we can at the time with the information that we have. We play for the health and happiness of all of our citizens of Cumberland County. We thank you for standing with us and for us and for all the citizens of Cumberland County. Amen.
Amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We all set? All right. Thanks, everybody, for being here. I will call on our Fayetteville Youth Council, Fayetteville Cumberland County Youth Council members to step up to the podium. And they're going to give us a few introductory remarks. They're going to introduce themselves and go right ahead. Sure. Pull up that microphone wherever it is. I don't even see it. Where is it? Oh, there we go.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Alan Montez. I'm a senior at Massey Hill Classical High School. I'm the outreach liaison for the Fayetteville Cumberland Youth Council.
And my name is Rebecca Boite. I'm a senior at Jack Britt High School, and I'm the volunteer chair for the Fayetteville Cumberland Youth Council. So on August 22nd, FCYC invited potential members to our annual virtual open house. At this event, we explained what FCYC is all about. Guardians and students were able to learn about our vision, requirements, commitment, and benefits of membership. Over 45 people were in attendance at our open house, and we greatly enjoyed getting to know them and share our passion for FCYC this year. In preparation for our in-person interest meeting on September 12th, Fayetteville Cumberland Youth Council's 2022 to 2023 Executive Board came together to plan out the FCYC year and clean our office space. This served as a great time for our executive board to get to know each other and our advisor, Mrs. Crystal.
Following our virtual open house, FCYC welcomed close to 55 potential and returning members to our office for our first meeting of the year. And our interest meeting was introduced by our executive board, conducted an overview of our bylaws, and got to meet our potential members for the year. We are grateful for this opportunity and look forward to a great year within the Fayetteville Cumberland Youth Council. Thank you.
And I want to thank you all for inviting me to the virtual meeting. I was at the virtual meeting, and it was exciting. I mean, just made me feel like I was back in high school with FCYC. If y'all hold on one moment.
Those were some strong feelings.
There goes Mr. Evans again.
Deep long-term.
Come on, I'll go take some more pictures. So I'd like to give you all a certificate of appreciation, and it says for the Cumberland County Youth Council for outstanding service as a voice for youth in the Cumberland County community and for focusing on the betterment and promotion of our community from the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners dated this 19th day of September, 2022.
Thank you so much.
Y'all shake everybody's hand first. Shake your hands right now.
Hey, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate it.
Alan. Come on. There you go. Y'all come on in a little bit. Come on over here. Hold on one second. There we go. All right.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, but I'll just do it first.
Y'all got to get up again. And we'd also like to, sorry, Madam Manager, wasn't on the docket, but we have some guests from Fayetteville State University. Judge Salamak has brought her class in, and if y'all would come up, I think we have a speaker who's going to introduce everybody. And Judge Salamak, if you want to have a few words, and the young lady at the end says she's going to introduce everyone. And tell us a little bit about that. Tell me where you're from, what county or where you're from. You can introduce yourself, that's right, we'll do it that way. Pull that mic up.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Amari Lawrence. I'm really not from Fayetteville. I'm from PG County, Maryland.
Okay.
And I'm a freshman at Fayetteville State.
You know where Douglas High School is?
Yes, sir.
You didn't go to Douglas, did you?
Nah, I didn't go to Douglas, but I know some people that went there.
My nephew coaches at Douglas and won the 2A championship last year, so just to let you know, I know where PG County is.
Okay.
I'd be surprised where I get to.
Oh, he's showing off now.
Hey everyone, my name is Zanetta Ellerby. I'm from Maxton, North Carolina. I'm pretty sure you heard of it. And I'm a junior at Fayetteville State.
Hello, my name's Nicole Ayala. I was born in Clinton but was raised in Fayetteville, criminal justice major, and I graduate next semester.
All right, okay. Like to hear that.
Hello, everyone. My name is Paris Sobbs, and I'm originally from Wilmington, North Carolina, and I am a senior at Fayetteville State.
I've never seen it.
She like that. I'm a senior.
Hello, my name is Miss Bianca Bonaparte. I am a student at Fayetteville State University, and I am majoring in accounting, hoping to pursue my dreams in forensics accounting, and I am from Fayetteville, North Carolina.
See, that's why the manager was shaking her head yes. That's her background. She was shaking her head yes over there. Anyone, you wanted to tell us a little bit about the class that you're in?
About the class? So on behalf of the students from Fayetteville State University, we are just basically here to watch and observe, and we are very pleased to be here tonight with you guys. And right here is my teacher, Ms. Judge Siler Mack, and she's a very good teacher.
Judge Salaman.
First of all, I just want to say thank you for allowing us this time, Commissioner Adams. A lot of my students want to be either lawyers, some aspire to be forensic accountants, some aspire to be in government. So I wanted them to see the difference. Last week, we had the opportunity to attend the city council meeting. So this week, we attend the county commissioners so that they could see the difference in how the county is more diverse and it encompasses more, and the city is a little smaller group that it relates to. So they're excited. They were very excited to come here. And so I just thank you all for giving us this opportunity. And Mr. Amari, he failed to tell you that he's also an athlete. He's a student athlete. He's on the football team. So he's a freshman athlete and takes this class. So he would like to present something to you.
What position?
I play wide receiver, sir.
He can run.
Yes, sir.
Go right ahead.
But on behalf of the class, we would like to present you with a certificate for our token of appreciation for having us be here.
Coming out, get ready to finish it up.
Thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate your coming and joining.
Sherry, I think they want a picture.
Oh, yes, you gotta come up and get in there. You gotta get in there. I took one earlier, but I'll let y'all in this one.
You kidding me? Yeah? I can't believe it.
Yeah. Everybody knows by now.
Sorry, Mike.
Really? I'm at the race. It fall out. Maybe they cook it this day. Congratulations.
We're glad to welcome our youth council members and our students from Fayetteville State. I think you'll see a little different from where you were last week to where you are this week. Much more congenial group up here with us, so people start laughing. I will call on the, we have the public comment period. I would ask the county manager to read the public comment policy.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Commissioners. The public comment period is an opportunity for citizens to appear before the board and to share their concerns. Each speaker will be given a maximum of 3 minutes to make their remarks until the 15-minute time limit is obtained. No time may be yielded to another speaker. We'll ask each speaker as they approach the lectern to give their name and their address. I do want to mention the public comment period is not intended to require the board to answer any promptu questions. Thank you.
Thank you, County Manager. We will take that to the clerk. Are there any public comment speakers?
Chairman Adams and Commissioners, we have 4 speakers this evening. Our first speaker is Mr. Lee Spruill.
Mr. Lee Spruill. Mr. Lee Spruill. All right, our next speaker,
Our second speaker is Ms. Jamie White.
Ms. White, Ms. Jamie White.
Good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Jamie White. I reside at 998 Pan Drive in the Grays Creek community. I just want to give a little background in case you all are not aware. Our good neighbors are still refusing to install the granular activated carbon systems on our homes. We qualified in 2018 with 3 tests at 181, 187, and 140 parts per trillion. These 3 tests are over the limits at that time of the 140 parts per trillion. I have requested several times over the last 4 years for the GAC to be installed and have been refused. The latest time in March of 2022, I went through my attorney asking him to please contact Chemours and ask them to reconsider. Chemours at that time denied with no explanation other than that they were still waiting on a feasibility study to be completed. We all know they never completed a feasibility study. It was done by the county. That was only for the elementary schools. It did not bring any study out toward us. Then I started sending emails and phone calls to NCDEQ. After several weeks, I finally got a call back stating that they were working on it. Again, that's another stall tactic. I contacted the governor with no response. So I contacted senators. The only senator to return any information was Senator Tillis, and it was his assistant that called and said they would work on it. But as of today, I've heard nothing. I have been told, let's see, to this day, there's no GAC system on my house, and Chemours has continued to poison my family every second of every day. I have been told that NCDEQ allowed them to halt the installation, but that ended on June 15th of this year. So now here we are, 3 months later, and still no GAC. I should have been notified of an installation date as soon as that extension passed, since I qualified under the old requirements in paragraph 19 of the consent order. My well was tested over the 140 parts per trillion on 3 different tests. We are combined with PFAS of 625 parts per trillion. I received a phone call Friday from NCDEQ that Chemours was sending out letters last week, but those letters are for those that are newly qualified under the EPA's new health advisory of 10 parts per trillion. Again, we are way over the limits. April of 2022, no response. Request made May 28th of 2022, no response. June 17th, I received a phone call from DEQ declining. Camorris had declined DEQ, the only people that will enforce it. A corrective action plan was submitted to NCDEQ December of 2019. April 20.
I'll let you finish that last sentence.
April of 2020, they rejected the corrective action plan. 28 months later, we still have no corrective action plan.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yes. Next speaker.
Our next speaker is Mr. Michael Waters.
Hello, I'm Michael Waters. You all know me, 6975 Point East Drive. You all have probably heard that Chemours is going to expand operations on the facility. There's a meeting tomorrow night, which I've invited a lot of you to. I hope you can attend. One of the things that a lot of people don't know is the EPA set a limit, 10 part per trillion for dimer acid. Chemours is challenging that. The 21st, the intervention was supposed to be judged in a court. It's not. It's going to go to the 29th. Unfortunately, the EPA guy has COVID. So the 29th, we're going to hear. There's two representatives, myself and Deborah Smith, that are on the intervention in support of the EPA. We signed on with the other water groups to represent the Cumberland County representatives to fight and keep the 10 part per trillion. It's like Jamie said, she has been declined a granular activated carbon system. I could get no answer from DEQ or from the law firms of why they're denying installing granular activated carbon systems west of the river. We know it's because of the feasibility study. Well, that is garbage. They installed a granular activated carbon system on my property 3 months ago. So what is the difference? She's a female and she's not complaining as much as I am. So that's discrimination. They're discriminating against her because I don't cause them as much. I mean, I cause more pain than she does. But they spun up a tiger. They're about to find out tomorrow. We're asking for help to press on DEQ to enforce the standards. June 15th, the extension for Chemours of not installing GACs expired. They haven't extended it. In fact, they can't now. So these letters they're sending out, most people, you know, they're going to have no idea what that means. It's going to help because now it will be more affordable to run water at Chemours' expense because they say 1,400 Cumberland County. I'll tell you it's a lot more than that. All of the wells tested in 2017, 2018 were tested at 20 parts per trillion. And I sent that whole list to DEQ, said you need to redo these because it's 1,784 wells that need to be retested in Cumberland County. So, you know, our concern is, and I appreciate what you guys are doing. I know you're putting money out there. It's a hard fight. You guys are you're represented. That's a great thing because this battle, you saw, we're Chemours. We're doing a 1 mile long, 6-story deep wall. You wouldn't have to do that unless you contaminated the ground. And it is critical. I have 30.33 parts per trillion of
you can finish that.
PFAS in my blood. The new NASM guidance for extensive testing to occur every 6 months is 20. So, you know, thank you.
You're welcome.
Our final speaker is Ms. Deborah Stewart.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Stewart, and I reside at 2462 Factory Lane, but my mailing address is 2494 Factory Lane. I'm a longtime resident of Grays Creek, been there for over 42 years now. You already know that my horse is 1,200 parts per trillion for PFAS. My dog is 540 parts per trillion for PFAS. My concern is about the animals that are being raised for food sources out there in the community. There's no advisories coming down from the state. We already know that the fish and the alligators out in the Grays Creek community are contaminated because Scott Belcher from NC State has done the testing, and all of the alligators came back 100% contaminated with these chemicals. Okay, so nobody seems to be doing anything to protect the community out there. So we know if it's in the dog, and we know if it's in the horse, and it's in the fish, that's been proven fact, and the alligators. Why are not any advisories being issued to the county that there's contaminated wildlife out there? Okay, in essence, what the state is doing is allowing us to be poisoned. And we already know that Chemours is expanding their facility. They've been granted a lenience where they can exceed the amount that they can dump into the river now. 10 parts per trillion was the state threshold, and now they can exceed that by 12 times that amount. This is crazy. It's nonsense. We're already poisoned. We're already suffering the health effects from, being poisoned all these years by DuPont and Chemours. So we need you guys to step up and step on DEQ's toes, make them do something, hold their feet to the fire, because they're not doing anything to enforce the rules with Chemours. And Chemours just keeps thinking they can, poison us, and nobody's going to do anything. And I have a funny feeling that they're doing self-monitoring again. Well, and we know that after a certain time that they're supposed to drop their emissions into the river down. Well, they won't, because we already know that they violate the law. So we need for you guys to be the watchdog and make sure that the laws are enforced to protect us out in the county. It's just not us. I mean, if it's affecting us, Grays Creek is a large portion of this county. It's affecting everybody in the Cape Fear River Basin from Fayetteville all the way down to Wilmington. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers?
There are no further speakers.
All right, I will close the public comment period. Thank you all for coming, and we'll do the best we can. We'll still keep fighting. I'll call on the county manager for approval of the agenda.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I would ask that the board consider removing item 4D from the agenda. It's case 22-0043. This is a zoning case, and the applicant has asked that this case be reheard on our October 17th meeting.
All righty. With that removal, if I can get a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
So for those that's in the audience, that's the Hummingbird zoning case. That's the 2243, so that won't be heard tonight. So if you want to, I'm going to give you time to leave if you want to leave. It is going to be scheduled for October the 17th. All right, thank you all, and thanks for coming. That would then take us to the presentations for Soldiers to Agriculture Program. Madam Manager.
Yes, sir. I'd like to ask Lisa Childers, our Cooperative Extension Director, to provide some information on this program and the individuals that have went through the program and graduated.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Cumberland County Cooperative Extension is pleased to join you tonight and share some great news about a new program we have in our office. It's called Soldiers to Agriculture. Soldiers to Agriculture has been around for a while, but recently NC State University transitioned it to Cooperative Extension here in our county. Let me go up to the next slide. The program is a partnership with Fort Bragg. It's part of their Transition Assistance Program, what we refer to as TAP, and it's one of their Fort Bragg Career Skills classes that we offer. Who's eligible to attend? Soldiers or their spouses spouses that are within 180 days of retirement, and veterans that desire to start a career in agriculture. It's a 5-week course. We provide an in-depth introduction to the many careers in agriculture. The first 3 weeks of the course consist of a classroom portion, and the second 2 weeks consist of hands-on and on-farm internship opportunities. We just held our first course, and a few of those graduates are here tonight, and we're going to introduce you to those folks in just a few minutes. We had some great agricultural leaders to come to our county and be part of the course, and we also use local resources, and several department heads came and spoke. We had FTCC's Small Business Center, Eric Redrick with Veteran Services, Soil and Water, and the Planning Department also came and talked about land use issues and zoning issues that oftentimes we have issues in regards to agriculture. Liz Joseph, our livestock agent, is here from my team, and she's actually the Soldiers to Agriculture program lead. She's going to come forward and share some additional information about the internship as well as opportunities that we provided them, and also introduce you to our graduates.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So during our program, we were able to explore many different topics within agriculture and in our classroom. And so when it was relevant, we were able to provide hands-on learning opportunities for the participants to reinforce what they were learning in the classroom. At the beginning of the class and throughout the program, we tried to figure out what their real interests were so we could pair them up best with the farms and agribusinesses so they could get more hands-on learning. And so this was actually one of the farms they went to during their internship. They went to various different ones, like I said, depending on their interests. Got to learn how to milk some goats. They got the folks that wanted to learn more about horticulture and growing their own garden. They really got their hands dirty. They got to go out to the Cape Fear Botanical Garden and work with some of the volunteers out there to learn more about gardening and flower production. And they also got to actually build some structures so they could learn how to, this was for raspberries? Blackberries. And we also got to learn a little bit about beekeeping. That day, thank goodness, we didn't have any beehives where we were. We just got to try some of the yummy honey. But Jackie, she got to go back out and help split some of the beehives. And then we also got to learn more about agritourism. This is a way that farms can help diversify what they're doing in their production to continue to stay relevant and educate the public. They also, this was at our garden at our office. They worked with one of our agents at the office and some of our master gardeners to actually build a raised bed and learn how to do that on their own. So that was graduation. And we do have a few of our graduates here tonight, so I would like to introduce Jackie Kessler. You guys want to stand up and come on up? Santuan Walker and Cedric Lee. It was a pleasure to get to work with all of them, and I'm happy that they were able to be here tonight to get to meet you guys.
Thank you. And I'll give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and say how you like the program or whether the program is good, bad, or indifferent. You can put it up.
I'm a little taller than Liz. Hi, my name is Jacqueline Kessler, and I am currently stationed at Fort Bragg. I've been a military intelligence officer for the past 7 years, and I have made the decision to transition to the reserves to allow more work-life balance and build my family. And so when I was going through the SFL TAP program, this really sparked my eye. I've worked indoors with no windows for about 7 years. And I really kind of wanted to go out to pasture the last couple months of my active duty military career. And so I got to do just that. I got to milk some goats. I got stung by a lot of bees, bitten by a lot of ants, but it was a very fun and rewarding process. I've never felt closer to the food that I eat, and it's a great opportunity, and I recommend it to anybody who is looking to be their own boss. So thank you. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you. That's great.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Santuan Walker. I am a major in the United States Army nurse, retiring. So I was interested in this program because I wanted to learn how to grow my own food. And I learned a whole lot in this class about food, our food industry, agriculture. It is an awesome program. I would recommend this program to anyone. In fact, I've already shared it with anybody that I know that's retiring. Even if you're not interested in agriculture, it was a great experience to be in our community and just learning about our neighbors who are growing our food to feed the country. These are our neighbors, so it was a great opportunity to get to know those folks.
It's awesome.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cedric Lee. I am the only veteran in the class. I'm a retired lieutenant colonel. My wife is currently on active duty, and I like to grow my own food. I wouldn't say homesteading, but just enough to feed the family initially. So that was what drew me to the program, and I learned a lot. You think that farmers just throw seeds in the ground and things start to grow, and it's a lot more than that. So I have a great appreciation for the risk that the farmers are taking to feed this county and to feed the world. And I learned a lot. And my goal in the program was to be an efficient and a smart grower locally in my own backyard, first of all. And then if I have enough surplus to start maybe a homestead and maybe go to a farmer's market. And I know Ms. Childers and Ms. Joseph have given me the tools in my toolkit to do that. And I would hope that you all will continue to support this program. And the second phase of what I gained out of this program was USDA came to our class and offered all of us an opportunity to work with the United States Department of Agriculture as food inspectors. And I'm currently going through the onboarding process to see if that's something I would like to do. So as soldiers transition out of the military and then they're really uncertain, I mean, that is a great opportunity for them to transition back into the government and into the workforce until they decide what they want to do. So I would truly hope that in the future that you all will continue to support Ms. Childers and Ms. Joseph in their aspiration to grow this program.
Thank you all. That you got Commissioner Keith's attention when you said the farmers market.
Yeah, you did. I'm back in. Sounds like a great program.
And you know, Commissioner Keith and I like to eat. So anytime we're talking about food, you're talking about our. You with me, man. You with me. You're the only one. The rest of them too skinny up here. You're the only one close to me, so I have to get you. But thank you all for participating in the program. First of all, you can offer a program if people don't participate in it. It doesn't really matter. So first of all, let us thank you for giving up that time to be able to be a part of it. And I'll just tell you, the North Carolina Extension Office and our agriculture department out at Charlie Rose Expo Center. To you individuals, I know y'all know what it is, but I would encourage anybody in Cumberland County to go out and see exactly what goes on in this community. I had a conversation with somebody the other day. I think it's important to have the urban part of the community, but I also think the rural part, as you're talking about doing the farm life, is important to Cumberland County. So thank you all, and there's a great collaboration between the state, the county, and Fort Bragg. And got a job out of it. What more can you say? So if y'all will come around, we will be able to.
She looks like a natural up there. She's got her own farm.
Lisa, y'all come on up here.
The nurse, that's right. You look like a natural up there. When did you open your farm?
If y'all come right back up here, we'll be continuing on. I'm in the Master's Gardener program. I'm in.
Yeah.
Come on, Lisa.
No. You all are the important ones. You all are the important ones. Whoa, no, go ahead, you fine. You fine.
He'll just move down.
I'm just gonna move over a little bit.
You knew exactly who to do.
Just don't cut my head off.
That's it.
Exactly. I need a flash.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
The whole class. Especially these ones.
Thank you so much.
Sounds like a good program.
That will take us to our consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda? If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented to us.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
All right. He going through puberty or something.
His voice cracking over here.
His voice was cracking over here. We'll go into our public hearings, and I will call on the county manager to explain the Board of Commissioners' procedures for public hearings.
Yes, sir. Each, as far as all zoning cases, arguments by the proponents and opponents shall be limited to a maximum of 10 minutes for each side. If there's no group representative, each speaker shall be allotted a maximum of 3 minutes until the 10-minute time limit is attained. For street naming cases, each speaker will be allotted 3 minutes to share any comments or concerns about the street naming.
And nothing else to the other two, which is the justice assistants or the?
All of those public
Okay.
hearings will be limited to 3
3
minutes per
All
speaker.
right. That will take us to our first public hearing, which is the street naming case number SN 0492. I'll call on the manager for staff to present.
Mr. Rawls Howard.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Manager. Good evening, Commissioners. So we have a street naming case that's before you this evening. This will be a slew, I won't say a slew, but there will be a handful of these cases that are going to be coming before the board, just dealing primarily with the 295 interchange and that being constructed through this part of the county. But you can see, that's what this case is tonight, is essentially where the 295 is interchanged. You can see as you're heading towards Hope County with the red star that's on the map. Let me actually blow this up a little bit more so you can see it. So you can see where this is located, sort of one of the last legs of the current 295 circular going around Fayetteville. So as I said before, this is part of the 295 project. There's a new interchange that was built off of Camden Road. As you can see here, as a part of the interchange that was being constructed, it cut these properties off from where they were otherwise onto Camden Road. So the DOT has agreed to come in here and they have put in this right-of-way for the property owners and are agreeing to put the road in for them to give them a new access onto their properties as a result of this. So staff went through the process, the standard process that we went through in order to be able to go through the renaming. We contacted 11 property owners, and through that process we came up with Firewood Lane, received the decisive vote for the name of the street. So just a little bit more of a blow up, as you can see where we are. This is Harvest Court here off of Farm Circle Road. Here's Camden. This is what it looks like currently. So my understanding from staff is that DOT will be going through there to put in a road, a formal road for the residents out there. But you can see we did advertise as required by state statute. Pretty straightforward. If you got any questions, I'll try to answer what I can.
Are there any questions from the commissioners? All right, on the next couple of them, might want to submit my name up in there. With that, I will open the public hearing. Madam Clerk, are there any speakers?
There are no speakers.
There are no speakers. I will close the public hearing, and if I can get a motion.
I move that we approve the street name change.
Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you, Ms. Howard. That will take us to our next public hearing for the Edward Bryan Memorial Justice Assistance Grants. Madam Manager.
Yes, sir. I'd like to provide just a little bit of information about this. As you know, this is an annual grant that we apply for. It is through the U.S. Department of Justice. The grant supports local law enforcement. We do this jointly between the Sheriff's Office and the City of Fayetteville Police Department. It's a joint application, and each entity uses the funds for their own priorities. The grant application is $213,720, which will be split evenly at $106,860 for the Sheriff's Office and the same amount for the City of Fayetteville. The U.S. DOJ requires that public be offered an opportunity to comment. The Sheriff's Office has properly advertised the grant opportunity weekly on social media channels, posting at the Courthouse Law Enforcement Center, and so we're asking this evening for the board to hold a public hearing on the grant application.
Thank you, Madam Manager. Then I will open the public hearing for the Edward Bryan Memorial Justice Assistance Grant. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers?
There are no speakers.
With there being no speakers, I will close the public hearing, and I will entertain a motion to approve the Edward Bryan Memorial Justice Assistance Grant.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
All right, that will be unanimous. That will take us to a public hearing on the Community Development Program Year 2021 Draft Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, the CAPER.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have with us Ms. Dee Taylor, our Director of Community Development Services, and she'll provide a presentation on the CAPER.
Okay. Good evening. The document that you have included in your packet is our Program Year 2021 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report. And this document is submitted annually to HUD, which outlines the programs that we've implemented and the funds expended for our previous grant cycle. During the program year 2021, HUD did allocate to the county approximately $900,000 in community development block grant funds, as well as approximately $390,000 in home investment partnership grant funds. Now, these funds were used to carry out programs that benefit low to moderate income persons in programs such as housing rehabilitation, affordable rental housing development, public facilities, and public services program. For the past program year, approximately 1,400 individuals benefited, low to moderate income persons benefited from these programs. Now, during the program year, we did have some challenges with our bricks and mortar programs, but we were still able to make a huge impact with our public services. The document was distributed through several locations throughout the county for public review and comment between September 2nd through the 19th. And ad was placed in the Fayetteville Observer. And so tonight, as Ms. Cannon stated, we're just asking the board to hold a public hearing for public input. After tonight, we will submit the final CAPER to HUD by the deadline of September 28th.
Are there any questions? Commissioner Booth.
Yeah, is this in any way available to be another link on our website?
Yes, it's actually
It's
posted on the
okay,
website,
good,
yes,
'cause
sir.
That's one thing I've had some calls on people saying, I've applied, but I didn't know whether I got any feedback or not on it. And I said, you should have at least gotten like some sort of thank you, we'll get back to you or something on it. And is the same standard for low to moderate in this program pretty much the same across the board, or do the income levels change depending on the grant?
Well, the income levels, HUD publishes the income levels annually, and in different geographic service areas, it varies. So every year it changes, but we use the same income limits for that year across Cumberland County area.
And that's on the link too?
We do have, that is available on HUD's website.
Okay.
And then, yes, sir.
That might, I don't want to say weed out, but they may filter some of the folks that they send it all in, and the response is just, you're not in the range. So I think if you can get the range out there as part of the application process, you may have some folks that realize before they go through all the process that they're not going to qualify.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Saves hurt feelings, too.
Any other comments? All righty, then I will open the public comment for the Community Development Program Year 2021 Draft Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, our CAPER. Madam Clerk, are there any speakers?
There are no speakers.
As there are no speakers, I will close the public hearing, and I will, I guess it's not a draft consolidated, it is the plan. Take a motion to approve the Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, which is the CAPER.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
That is unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Taylor. That will take us, the rezoning case D is off. So that will take us to the zoning ordinance update for signs and enforcements. And I will go to Madam Manager.
Yes, sir. I would like to recognize our Planning and Inspections Director, Mr. Rawls Howard. This was an item that was originally presented at the agenda session.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. So the presentation that I have this evening was the presentation that pretty much that you saw at that meeting. So this is a project that that staff has been working with the Planning Board for the better part of a year. We had incorporated the services of Code Right Planners, which is Mr. Chad Meadows, who I think all of you met at the last agenda session meeting to help us with this as a technical advisor. But essentially, you know, some of the objectives of why we wanted to address the sign ordinance was simply, as you see here, to increase the predictability, to improve formatting, to make it a little bit easier to be able to read and use, not only for the sign industry, but for the public and the staff to administer. But first and foremost, it was really associated with Supreme Court case law that came down in 2015 that pretty much was a watershed case that pretty much dictated to all of the county and city governments all across the country how and in what manner we can regulate signs and so forth. So as a part of that, the state also within this past year also changed how we can do zoning enforcement in general. So essentially what they did is they said that we can no longer issue criminal penalties as a part of enforcement. Everything has to be civil penalty enforced. So as a part of the sign effort, we just went ahead and wrapped in the update to the enforcement section as well too. So that's why you have a very lengthy and very verbose attachment to your agenda packet, is that it's pretty much the whole zoning ordinance. So just to give you a little bit of project history to date, we did start this. We had the project executed in August of 21. We had gone through a number of different meetings with the Joint Planning Board and the subcommittee. We actually, in May of 22, we had a meeting where we invited the sign industry reps from the city of Fayetteville and the surrounding area, the people that primarily do business with us on a daily basis. We invited them out for their comments, and we took those comments to heart. We made changes, and then finally we have the draft ordinance that's here in front of you this evening. So this has very much been a project that, you know, has been worked on for quite some time. So none of the proposed changes to the sign rules is there's a new Article 13, so we included graphics, tables, things that could otherwise be condensed into a graphic format where somebody could be able to read it a lot more easier and be able to see what the regulations are. We removed all of the content-based standards, which was the premise of why we had the federal Supreme Court case anyway. They said we cannot pretty much regulate anymore on content-based standards. We put some clarity in on exempted and prohibited signs. We put some more detail on how we measure and how we do changeable copy and so forth for our staff. And then we tweaked and modified the rules a little bit to put some more clarity about how we apply some standards to obsolete or dilapidated or non-conforming signage. We addressed billboards as a part of this, and essentially we took a lot of the standards that came from the DOT, since we don't own roads as a county. A lot of the regulations that we have for these types of signs do come from the DOT. So it's been a while since we looked at this, and we did incorporate a lot of the DOT standards into these regulations because they're the ones that ultimately, after they leave our permit, then they have to go get a DOT permit in order to be able to build billboards. We clarified some of the procedures and standards for special purpose signs. These are types of signs that really don't fit in any kind of category, so we have an out for those people who can be able to go get approval. If you have something that's very like unique or artistic or something that really doesn't fit our mold, then you could be able to go to the Board of Adjustment and be able to apply for a permit in order to be able to get a special purpose sign. And then we clarified pole signs and ground signs and how they are measured. So just to give you a little bit of like background of the pole signs and the ground signs, currently right now to do like these types of measurements is dependent on your zoning district. So if you're driving down the road, you might have signs that might look like this because the zoning district's different. Well, we've taken the chance that the purpose of a sign is to communicate a message to people, to the traveling public. So we've now taken the form that's a lot easier, and we got some very positive feedback on this, that the size and the height of your sign is really dictated by what kind of road you have. So essentially, the smaller you road, so if you have a small road, you can have a certain size sign, and as DOT comes through there and classifies the roads bigger with more lanes and so forth, then your signs would automatically start to be able to get bigger per our ordinance. So it's related to the DOT street classification system, not so much of the zoning district that you're in. And then we put in a section that helps with the administration of when people do multiple types of development, like for commercial development, shopping centers, of doing a uniform sign plan, which just makes a uniform way that we can apply regulations to a big development that has multiple people. So the proposed changes to the enforcement, we put in a new Article 18. We pulled all of the enforcement section out and just basically put it into its new article. The overwhelming majority of the language that you see in that ordinance that you have in front of you is really coming from the state statutes and the changes that they made. So we tried to clarify some of the violations that are there. Put some clarity in on the persons responsible for those violations, the types of procedure now that the state says we have to go through in order to be able to enforce not only signs, but just all across the whole zoning ordinance. So I want to make that clear as well, too. So this applies to any zoning violation. And the decriminalization of zoning-related violations now. So now there's civil penalties, and then we put some, some more standards in that relate to that. But the vast majority, again, as I said, that comes from the state statute, so we just incorporated that language. So that's all I have. So if you have any questions, I'll try to elaborate on anything I can.
I just have one, and this is a question that because I got a email from Guy Williamson, who's with Gray Outdoor, from the 2,500 down to the 1,000. I mean, from the 1,000 up to the. Is that what you were doing? Yeah. To the 2,500. How do we get to? I just so he can have. I guess he might be looking or whatever. He talks about if you go to 2,500, it almost stops these outdoor billboards. I'm not necessarily looking at either way, but how do we get from that in terms of the spacing, especially with 295 coming along, I guess?
Yeah, certainly. So we looked at a bunch of comparable counties. So we looked at everywhere from up in the triangle, from Durham to Wake to Moore, and we thought that we picked a standard that was pretty much right there in the middle. So you have some counties that ban them outright, and then you have some that are more permissive, and we thought that since we already had a standard to begin with of 1,000 feet, that if we increase that puts us still right in the middle of all the comparables that we looked at. And we actually have those. If you look in the strike-through version of the copy, you can see in the footnotes the counties and some of the standards that we had looked at as a part of this process. So we don't feel like we were being too restrictive, but we don't feel like we were being too lenient
Commissioner
on
Booth.
the other side.
Oh,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Will any of these signs that Mr. Adams was talking about, will they be grandfathered in, or once it gets dilapidated and torn down, they can't build the same thing back, or as long as they maintain what's out there? Or are you going to go like, which one do you want and which one we saw on down? I mean,
No. So like the short answer to your question, Commissioner, is yes, they will be grandfathered.
Okay.
I can tell you from working in other cities where actually a city I worked in was the headquarters of one of the national outdoor advertising industries, and I can tell you these folks make sure their billboards do not go down.
Yeah.
So that they will be out in a hurricane holding it all together to make sure they stay exactly where they are. So it's very rare that you'll see a billboard come down once they come up. I'll just put it to you that way. But yes, as far as the non-conforming, if it does get taken down voluntarily, so we put some standards in here that also said if you are subject to a government acquisition, that we put some leniency in there about how we can handle, like if DOT comes in and says, I'm going to buy you out, we will let you move some of your signs around within some sort of parameters. So we do have some allowances for that. But for the most part, they would be subject to our standards for non-conforming uses.
Commissioner Keefe.
Thank you. I got a couple questions for you,
Sure.
Ross.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I'll start with the good. There's a lot of wisdom in sign size being associated with the road as opposed to the zoning. I think that's a really good. Can you provide some clarity on what kind of signs are exempt and prohibited?
Okay. If you don't mind, I'll look in here actually, so if you don't.
Okay.
So some of the prohibited signs that we had looked, well, I'll just start with the exempted. So there are certain signs that don't require a permit to be able to keep it up. Things like real estate signs and things like that that people do their day-to-day business, those things are typically exempted. Two things explicitly that we looked at as a part of this process that other people did that pretty much staff and planning board pretty much agreed we didn't want to really go down were political signs. So we're not going to be regulating political signs as far as the county, and the reason why we're doing that is the state has statutes that are subject to the state roads and how political signs can be regulated on their roads. We do have the authority to be able to pull signs on state roads, for example, but we don't have any permitting or any kind of regulation about how big or whatever that is. So that's one. The second one that was exempt was flags. So if you look all across the state, there are people that have big, huge flags or whatever. If you're looking at Confederate flags, American flags, or whatever. So pretty much we stayed away from any kind of regulation of flags, and I think that's just pretty much because we're very supportive of a military community here, and we didn't want to go out to anybody to tell them what size of American flag they could have on their lot. So I think we were, said we wanted to do that. So that was exempted out of all of this as well,
Okay,
too.
prohibited?
Huh?
Prohibited?
Yeah, so we do have some prohibited signs.
Are these newly prohibited?
No.
Or they were in the, okay.
No, sir, they're
All
not.
right, I'm gonna, and Chairman, I think it's worth us saying that this is only in areas outside of municipal, of the
Right.
city of Fayetteville or
Unincorporated area.
Unincorporated
That's
areas,
correct, yes,
great.
sir.
So if someone was going to have a, farmer's market, down this road, and they're putting it up for the weekend, no problems. Help wanted signs, like those type of things, no problems for temporary, is that right?
Well, again, so we can't regulate on content. So if it says help wanted, or if it says whatever, we just regulate based off of, if you're in like a residential area, you can have X number of signs of this size. We can't tell you what's on those signs.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can't really do that. So we have a lot of allowances for that in this ordinance as
Probably
well.
the biggest thing that's happened now is it's not criminal anymore, it's civil,
That's right.
okay?
Yes.
So we talk about all the enforcement, what's the reality of what the penalty is? If it's civil, what is someone who violates this signed ordinance, what are they looking at?
Yeah, we take that to
A
the,
drawn-out, expensive process in Superior Court.
Yeah, so we do have civil penalties that are contemplated in.
What is that, $100 a day?
500.
$500 a day for once you are being told that you're in an infraction.
But that's what we have now, so nothing's changing with that. We didn't change the monetary penalty for what we have now.
But it has to go through civil as opposed to.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay. I think that does it for me, Mr. Chairman.
any other questions? If not, I will open the public hearing for the update for the signs and enforcement case zoning 22-0034. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers?
There are no speakers.
We have no speakers, so we will close the public hearing, and I will take a motion to approve the update for the signs and enforcement case zoning 22-0034.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. So, yeah, so this is a zoning case, so staff did provide you the motion as a part of your motion sheet. So I'll say that as well, too.
All right. I guess he told me I was going a little fast.
Oh, I've gone to another one. In case zoning 220043.
3-4.
Okay.
So 3-4.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
Mhm.
moved ahead.
That's good, all right.
It's 4-3, 3-4.
In case zoning 220034, I move to approve the text amendment and find the request consistent with the 2030 Growth Vision Plan because while specific land use plan policies do not address a comprehensive update to the county's sign or enforcement regulation, our current ordinance that is in compliance with federal and state law allows the department to continue to provide efficient and effective service to achieve goals laid out not only in the 2030 Growth Vision Plan, but all detailed land use plans within the county. Approval of this text amendment is also reasonable and in the public interest as it is a comprehensive update to clarify standards, review processes, and enforcement procedure for the public.
Isn't that what I said? I'll get a second on that.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you.
No, it's not.
Oh.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
My apologies. Voting in favor, Commissioners Lancaster, Council, Stewart, Adams, Booth, and Key. Voting in opposition, Commissioner Evans.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, that passes. That will take us to number 5, our item of business. Madam Manager.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members. I'd like to provide a little bit of background on this item. As you may recall, at the September 8th, 2022 agenda session, the Board of Commissioners considered a request from the North Carolina Civil War Reconstruction Center Foundation for a commitment of $7.5 million that had been previously designated for this project through a resolution. At that meeting, there was a motion that passed 5-1, and I'd like to share that motion, and it was approval of $7.5 million contingent upon the City of Fayetteville funding and county legal having the document it needs. So since that time, the county attorney and I have worked with the foundation, and there are actually 5 attachments included in your packet this evening. There were questions specifically about the state's commitment to operating the museum upon completion and documentation of grant funding actually allocated by the state. The first item in your packet is a resolution from the foundation formally requesting funding of $7.5 million. And this resolution is important because it satisfies a general statute 153A-437. That was one document that was needed that we had not had presented previously. The second document is a resolution from the foundation stating their intent to gift the History Center to the state once it's completed. And that starts the process for the state then to take ownership and to operate it. The third document is a letter from the director of the Division of State History Museums confirming that the History Center will become a state museum once it is gifted to the state. In fact, it actually replaces the current Museum of the Cape Fear that's currently a part of the Division of State Museums. The fourth item is an excerpt from the state budget showing the total allocation from the state of $59.6 million toward construction of the History Center. I do want to note that it comes in 2 tranches, and so over 2 biennial years. And then finally, there's a copy of the contract between the foundation and the State Office of Budget and Management indicating the allowable uses of the funding. And so the recommendation, these documents have been approved by and reviewed by the county attorney. The recommendation this evening is to consider the additional information and consider the request for the $7.5 million of funding. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Anybody have any questions? I will, if we remember the resolution we did, I don't know how many years ago that was.
That was in 17, I believe, and then expired in December of 2020.
Right, and there were several conditions, and I think one of the major conditions, I guess the same kind of conditions the state had, was that I was to be used for brick and mortar.
Yes, sir.
That was one of the conditions.
Yes, sir.
And I think that, and that's what, hopefully, that this funding does and would be part of the motion, and that it be contingent on the city participating. Anybody have any questions, comments?
Mr. Chair, let me make sure, clarify, this is not an appropriation of money. You have to do that by ordinance. This is a commitment to make that appropriation. At the time that you do the ordinance, the information you have just mentioned would be included in the ordinance.
And again, we talked about, and it's just like, I guess, they're 501c3, that it has to be for, meet the statute as to the considerations of all that. Commissioner Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quick question, Madam Manager. You said that there was a memorandum of understanding stating that this organization would turn over it to the state.
It's actually a resolution that was adopted by the foundation, yes, sir. And that resolution states that once it's completed, they would gift the History Center to the state.
They would give the history, and that resolution was dated when?
I'm sorry, I don't recall off the top of my head. Let me look in the attachment. March 2nd, 2022.
March 2nd, 2022. Okay, and thank you. That's good. You also said there was a memorandum of understanding done, correct? And that was just for the financial portion of it, right?
There is a copy of a contract between the Office of State Budget and Management.
It's a contract for funding with the state.
Yes.
Okay, that's something that the Appropriations Committee, that it normally sends out, that office, if they put it in their budget, right?
Yes, sir.
That's something that's normally done. Okay, is there a memorandum of understanding regarding the museum being given to the state at any time? Because we all know that a resolution can be broken at any time.
But there's actually two attachments in here that address it. There's not a memorandum of understanding. There's a resolution where the foundation is expressing their intent to transfer it to the state. And then there's a letter that was dated in June of 2022 reaffirming from the Division of State History Museum their willingness to accept it. And it will actually replace the Museum of the Cape Fear that's already a part of the Division of State Museum. So those two documents, there's not a MOU.
Okay, so there's nothing written in stone that it could be done, that it would be done. It's just going on your word, intent.
Well, not my word. Actually, the intent of the foundation and the intent of the state, but there is not an MOU. You're correct.
Okay. Let me ask this. So, if that does not occur, if it doesn't go to the state, then we will be responsible for the upkeep of this building.
We wouldn't be the owners of the building.
We wouldn't be the owners of the
No,
building.
it would
So who
be,
would
it
be
would be the
responsible?
foundation.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Anyone else have any other questions or comments? Oh, I'm sorry. Can't y'all, none of y'all lights are coming
not
on
working.
today. I see. I did that on purpose.
I know you did.
Commissioner Booth.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, ain't no lights here anymore.
I'm glad that you brought up the part about the brick and mortar, because that was something that we all agreed on,
Yes, sir.
that we didn't want our 7.5 to be used for like advertising, and then not really have bought into the actual construction of it. So if there's some phrasing we could put in there, I'd be happy with that. But your second one about contingent on the city of Fayetteville, I don't know if it's Groundhog Day or, what is it? Clocks go back an hour, go forward an hour. I wouldn't want this group to have done all the thought process behind it and then say, we're going to tag team with what the city comes up with. So I think we either make a decision that we support it or we don't, and we support it whatever terms, like I like your brick and mortar one, but I'm not inclined to say, and let's see what Fayetteville does. So I think we just need to make a decision on whether we support this or not.
Commissioner Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with you. We need to make that decision. And I also think that in the process, I don't like the wording of this being turned over with the intent to be turned over or whatever. There's nothing solid about that. Because I would hate to see our taxpayers be burdened with having to pay whatever X number of dollars there is after this establishment is built. And I'm afraid that that's what's going to happen. I think that happened, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that happened with the Airborne Museum.
That was between the city of Fayetteville and the military.
And
in
it
Fort
did
Bragg.
happen. Okay. So I cannot support this. Not unless we are very clear that someone's going to be responsible for this building.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Booth, I did hear, I've always been of the opinion that this was, even in the first resolution we did, of contingent on the city. And I think I heard from the attorney, make sure I understood what you said. This is just the commitment, then you do the ordinance, which then puts in whatever conditions that need to be done to be able to do that. Is that what I understand?
That's correct, but from Mr. Evans' concern, wouldn't be addressed because this is going to be a project, the foundation, it's not a state project. It would be, the intent and the indication from the state is that the transfer would be after the project is constructed. However, part of this property is currently owned by the state, so they have to work together in that regard.
So if there's no other questions or comments, I would entertain a motion that Commissioner Council had her hand up to appropriate the 7.5 contingent upon it being used for brick and mortar and the city of Fayetteville, and that it will come to the ordinance. If I can, is that your motion?
That's my motion.
If I can get a second? Second. It's been moved in second. All those in favor?
Voting in favor, Commissioners Lancaster, Council, Commissioner Adams, Chairman Adams, Commissioners Booth and Commissioner Keefe. Voting in opposition, Commissioners Stewart and Evans.
All right, that motion passes. Thank you so very much. That will now take us to the nominations. I call on the Vice Chairwoman, Stewart, for the nominations.
The Mid-Carolina Aging Advisory Council has one vacancy. They recommend Catherine Marable for reappointment. Marable, I'm sorry, for reappointment.
That takes us to the Mid-Carolina Workforce Development Board, has 4 vacancies.
There are 4 vacancies for the Cumberland County's private sector employer representatives as follows. And forgive me for this. Naish, Meta, Kevin Brooks, Demmer Hopkins, and Jimmy Keefe.
Jimmy Keefe.
This thing, Jimmy Keefe.
He's a fine man.
Was that?
You know they changing that whole workforce.
Oh, that's not the
development
aging
board.
one. That's not the aging one. Okay. All right. Sorry.
That's
I
the
got-
heavy one there.
There's a heavy-
That takes us to the Human Relations Commission, the 1 vacancy.
The Human Relations Commission has 1 vacancy, and they recommend Claudia Zamora.
All righty. And thank you, and there are no appointments, so I don't think we have a closed session, so we'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So move.
And second.
It's been moved and second. All of those in favor?
Unanimous.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Good meet.
Very good meeting.
Good meet. Good meet.